Hey guys, it's Geoff, and today we are doing a Kamado 101, a basics beginner guide to Kamado style cooking. If you're new to Kamado and you're wanting to know the basics of how to set up and how to get started and all of that jazz, then hopefully this will help you out. This is answering a whole bunch of questions that I had when I first got started, and certainly hope that it's beneficial for you. So let's dive in. So I'm going to assume that you've already been cooking on your Kamado, and we'll start with opening her up and removing the internals. So take out your grill grates and deflector plates and set those aside. And we'll grab the ash tool and knock around the remaining charcoal to knock the ash and dust loose and empty out the ash drawer and replace it. Next, we'll grab the lump charcoal and fill the firebox up to the vent holes, remembering that air circulation is paramount for a Kamado cooker, so we don't want to overfill it. Lump charcoal only. I see a lot of questions asking if you can use heat beads, or why can you not use heat beads in a Kamado cooker. The reason is that they have chemicals and they will get soaked into the ceramic, and getting rid of that odor is damn tough. So definitely lump charcoal only. Next, we need to light it up, so using a natural material fire starter only. I generally light only one place in the middle of the firebox. The reason I do that is because it's much easier to maintain the temperature when the fire's only spreading from one place. When I first got started, I was lighting it all over the place and I couldn't maintain temperature at all. That makes it very hard, so definitely don't do that. So one fire starter in the middle, light her up and make sure that it's touching the coals that are right next to it. At this point, leave the lid open and the bottom vent fully open, and we'll leave it lit for about 10 minutes before we move to the next step. So now we're ready to set up. 10 minutes are down, the fire's gone out, and you're left with lit charcoal in the middle of your firebox. If you want to get it kick-started a little bit, you can use this trick and fan it with the dustpan from your kitchen, and that'll give it a little boost to heat up just a little bit faster. For a standard low and slow cook, we want to add the deflector plates back. So before we do that, give them a little scrape down and just remove any junk that has built up from the last cook. And then we can add those back along with the grill grates. Don't worry about cleaning the grill grates at this point. They're much easier to clean when the Kamado's hot. With regards to your deflector plates, you definitely need to add those back now. If you add them in when the Kamado is already hot and the ceramic goes from cold to hot, you risk thermal shock and cracking of the deflector plates. They are fragile and they will crack. I've cracked a couple in the last 5 years. So you definitely need to be careful with knocking them, dropping them, and you definitely need to be careful with thermal shocking them. So don't move them from cold to hot, and that goes for your pizza stone as well. Always make sure that you slowly heat them up from cold. The one thing I did forget is smoking wood chunks. If you want to use smoking wood chunks, you want to add those in the beginning when you're adding back your deflector plates and your grill grates. The one thing you need to look out for, and the one thing that I and a lot of beginners get wrong, is more smoke is not necessarily a good thing, and in two ways. Don't add too much wood chunks and too much smoking wood when you're first starting out. Less is more, really. You want the flavor of smoke, in my opinion. You don't want to overpower it. You don't want it to, when you're eating it, there's that much smoke there. So go easy in the beginning until you work out how much you like. If it's not enough, next time add more. The other thing that you need to be careful of is the type of smoke that you're getting. When you first add charcoal, lump charcoal, or you first add smoking wood, you will get a white billowy cloud of smoke. That's dirty smoke, it's acrid, and it's no good. What you're looking for is the smoke that has a bluish tinge to it, the thin blue smoke that has a tinge to it. And the way you get that is by burning off your lump charcoal for a bit initially, and also by letting your wood chunks burn in a little bit. The stuff that you get off initially, that white, thick, grey, billowy smoke is no good. If you're getting that and you're ready to put your meat on, and you think you should be ready, open up your vents, give it a bit more air, give it a bit more heat to ignite and combust, and then close it back down again quickly, so that you're initiating that burn and getting that blue, thin smoke that we're all looking for. That's the good stuff. Now you can close her up. So close the lid, bottom vent fully open, top vent fully open and swung open if you've got a Kamado Joe Series 2 and up style control tower. And that'll allow the maximum amount of heat into your Kamado, or the maximum amount of air, I should say, into your Kamado to begin to heat it and fan the coals to get it all ready for cooking. For low and slow cooking, you're generally cooking between 225 and 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, I'm going to refer to Fahrenheit in this video. Apologies for all of our metric New World friends. Barbecue's generally talked about in Fahrenheit, so I'll continue the tradition at this point. Google Translate's your friend, so you can convert to Celsius if you need to. So what you want to do, let's say for example you're cooking at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. When the Kamado reaches 200, essentially 50 degrees Fahrenheit before the temperature that you want to cook at, you need to start closing the vents down to your cooking position. So for 250, generally I would sit with the bottom vent at 10 millimeters open and the top vent for a Kamado Joe anyway at about the first notch, which I think is about 15 millimeters open. Then at that point, you can start to add in your food, which will drop the temperature, but it will stabilize. So don't go fiddling around with it too much. Wait till it stabilizes, give it 15-20 minutes, and if you need more heat, adjust the fine tuning with the top vent. So just open it a little bit more, wait another 15 minutes, check it again. Don't go moving it too fast up and down, or you'll be chasing temperatures the whole day, and that's not what you want. Overshooting temperature. If you accidentally overshoot, it's a pain in the ass. So pay attention. Don't overshoot. It's no good. But if you do, the way to go about it, it depends on how far you've overshot. If you're at 800 degrees Fahrenheit, you've got a problem. If you've overshot to about 375, 400, what I would do at that point is just close everything down, top and bottom vent, to just a crack open. And then slowly and patiently wait for the Kamado to come down. If you haven't already realized, the one bad part about Kamado, it's probably not bad, but they hold heat. They are very, very efficient. And so the difficult part about Kamado is certainly if you overshoot temperature. It takes ages to cool it down. So pay attention in the beginning and make sure you don't do that. I, like probably everybody else who's watching this, has done it. It's annoying and it takes forever. It's the only thing that is difficult about Kamado. Kamado cooks, it grills, it smokes, it's pizza, it's baking, it's roasting, it's everything. It's not reducing temperature. It's a pain. And don't get into the position where you think that you're going to have a cook where you're going to cook at this high heat and then reduce it down and cook here and do it quickly, because that's not going to happen. Often I have cooked a pizza and then baked bread 3 hours later and it's still above bread baking temperature. So certainly watch the overshooting. That can be difficult if you're not paying attention. If you're setting up for a standard roasting or baking temperature, so 350, 375 Fahrenheit or 180, 200 degrees Celsius, Now, the only difference really is the vent position. So for that position, I'm using about 15 millimeters open on the bottom, 15 to 18, and on the top vent, I'll be going half to 2/3 of the way open. And that'll have me sitting at around about, as I said, 200 Celsius-ish, 375, 390 Fahrenheit, give or take. That's basically the only difference if you're cooking at that temperature. For a high heat pizza cook, your initial setup looks like this. So the grill grates are up high and the deflector plates sit on top of the grill grates. At that point, before you add in your pizza stone, you need a spacer of some kind. That could be rolled up foil balls, it could be aluminium box tubing, or in my case, it's this cake rack that used to sit under a cake platter that I had that never ever got used, and now, incidentally, is put to pretty good use. And your pizza stone sits on top of that. With pizza, bottom vent fully open, top vent swung open. It will take about half an hour to 40 minutes for your pizza stone to heat soak, depending on how thick it is. And I generally cook pizza at around 650 to 750 degrees Fahrenheit. That's for traditional Italian style pizza. If you're cooking doughs that have oil and sugar in them, you're going to want to reduce that temperature, or the sugars and fats will burn in the dough. So cook those at around about 500 to 550. That's for your American style, Domino's, Pizza Hut style crusts. Don't be too tempted to go hotter. Remember that for a Kamado, the heat comes from underneath. Which is far different to a pizza oven where the heat comes from on the side and out and above. Of course, the stone is heat soaked, but the heat primarily is coming from above to cook the toppings. Your stone's heat soaked, but it's not getting that constant heat from below, which if you go too high in a Kamado Joe or a Kamado style cooker, you are going to risk burning your crust. And clearly that's not what you want. I've done it and the kids complain and you feel like a failure. Yeah. If you want to do standard grilling, so grilling a steak, sausages, chops, chicken, that kind of thing, chicken breast, chicken thigh, what have you. Again, same way, but you're just not adding in the deflector plates at the beginning. So I like to grill at around about 500 to 550 degrees Celsius. And depending on how high and hard you want the sear, you can have the grill plates, on a Kamado Joe anyway, you can have the grill grates sitting up high, or you can sit them down low in the Kamado. For reverse sear, a couple of ways you can go about doing that. If you're cooking a lot of food, I should say, if you don't know what reverse searing is, it's essentially where you cook the protein from a raw state slowly and gently without searing at first, and then when you get to your target temperature, you then sear it really hard at a very high heat. So basically in a Kamado, what you would do is reverse sear it around about 250 degrees Fahrenheit and then sear it off at 550, 600 degrees Fahrenheit. To do that, there are two ways to do it. You can either have your deflector plates in and your grill grates in, and you do a standard setup and a standard cook, or you can mix and match in a Kamado Joe with the divide and conquer system and have one side with the deflector plate on and the grill grate up high, and you can have the other side with a grill grate down low. That works really well if you don't have too much meat, and you can just go from one to the other without needing to readjust your configuration mid-cook. Closing down your Kamado depends on what you've been doing with it. So if you've been cooking pizza, essentially what you want to do is close the bottom vent and leave the top vent open at the first notch until it cools down a fair way. When it gets generally below 300 degrees Fahrenheit, I wouldn't close everything down until you get to that point, or you risk cracking the ceramic. You don't want to lock it up when it's too hot. So when you're below 300 degrees Fahrenheit, you can close the bottom and the top vent. Otherwise, leave the top vent open a tiny little bit and let it close down or cool down gradually before you close it down. Once you do that, the coals will go out themselves, and they'll be sitting there waiting for you for the next cook, where you can start from the beginning of this video essentially and knock them around, add more, and your way to go. Cleaning. I've seen a lot of people asking if they can wash their deflector plates on Facebook groups. The answer to that is no. No, you can't wash ceramic at all. Don't put water anywhere near the ceramic, otherwise you'll crack it. Holds onto the water, it soaks it up, and then you go from cold to hot, and eventually it's going to crack. There's no need to clean the deflector plates. You're not putting food on it, essentially. Same goes for your pizza stone. It burns to ash. So essentially what you want to do, if you need a clean out, cook pizza, that cleans it straight away. It's like its own little pyrolytic system. Or you can run a high heat burn with nothing in it, which will just takes all the junk in the Kamado and turns it to ash and leaves the ceramic white, basically, is the way that works. So I do that every now and again. I've never, basically when I need a clean, I just cook pizza. I've never done it just for the sake of it. And with regards to a full kind of pull apart and clean out, I do that once every 4 to 5 months. So, and generally after a pizza cook, I'll decide that this is the day, and then after the pizza cook the next day, I'll pull everything out, vac it out, brush it down, and put it all back together again. So takeaways, less is more with regards to smoke. More air, more heat, less air, less heat is the golden rule. You can't cool the Kamado down by opening the lid and closing the lid. That's just going to allow more air in. It's going to gush, it's going to spark it up. So the golden rule, more air, more heat, less air, less heat. If you're having trouble not getting your Kamado up to a high temperature, it's 2 reasons why. You don't have enough lump charcoal in your firebox, or the second reason is you have restricted airflow. They're the only 2 reasons why you are unable to get it up. If you can't keep your temperature down, it's because you've perhaps lit it in too many places, or somewhere along the line you're allowing it to have too much heat. You're maybe opening and closing the lid too often, or maybe your gasket's shot and it's not sealed properly. But essentially the golden rule is, if it's not hot enough, it doesn't have enough air, and if it's too hot, it's got too much air. Cleaning, don't wash ceramics, keep water away from it. Be patient. You only need to light it in one spot. It will get there. If you're just grilling and you're grilling open, then you can definitely light it in more spots to get it started up. And you can also use those heat guns, Luftleiter and that kind of thing. I haven't really bothered, but definitely you can go for those to get it started. They are faster than lighting with natural fire starters, but I haven't gotten there. And I kind of like the process of lighting the fire anyway, to be honest. And the last part with controlling temperature, and the most important part perhaps, is start shutting your Kamado down 50 degrees Fahrenheit before your target temp. That will prevent you overshooting, and then you only need to make minor adjustments from there. I hope this has been beneficial to you if you're a beginner. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I pretty much get to every comment on YouTube because, well, I'm not that bloody famous and I don't have that many followers, so I'm totally happy to answer them, and I will definitely get back to you. And feel free to bug me if I haven't, or flick me a message on Facebook at Geoff the Real Chef. Definitely flick me a message there. I'm happy to help you out. Until my next cook, take care, happy grilling. We'll see you soon.